Here we are today at SSON's Finance Transformation Europe event in London. I'm your host Fränzel Schneider from SSON, and I'm joined today by Ian Duffield, Head of Legal and Finance Operations, DSGi Business. Hello Ian, good to see you.
Hello Fränzel.
Ian, what's the missing link between finance and procurement?
The missing link between finance and procurement generally tends to be seen as the purchase order or some sort of problem with the purchase order. Typically that's the perception. But the problem is a little bit more fundamental than that, and that's really one of culture but also of perception. At the end of the day, finance and procurement really both want to get to the same place, and that's keeping the supply chain open, supply of goods coming in as unrestricted as possible, and the supplier paid to terms. That achieves everybody's aims, and just good business control. The finance side tends to concentrate on the compliance. That means that they want a purchase order, they want to see that things have been properly authorised, properly approved, and that's absolutely crucial. Particularly these days when the economic climate is as it is. Equally from the procurement side, they just want to get the goods in. They see their role more operational and less about compliance. But you need to do one to achieve the other. The trick to achieving it really is about making certain that the communication is in place, and really that's how you do it. Finance need to be talking to their colleagues in procurement, making certain that the processes are clearly understood. Also, the processes are easy to implement. Don't want to put hurdles in people's way that don't need to be there. It's not compliance for compliance's sake. It's a necessary business control, and both departments need to work together. And also the issue around the education of this, making certain the procurement team understand what the rules and processes are, but also more importantly why they're there. This is the big piece about education. If people understand why they need to do something, they're more likely to buy into it, more likely to comply. And that's just about getting good cooperation and good collaboration, particularly at senior levels, between finance and procurement.
Thank you, Ian. How are you communicating the need for finance and procurement to work together?
It's a constant process. What I do at DSGi Business is I work very closely with the head of buying. I've got a very good relationship with him. He absolutely understands my needs and my requirements in making certain the compliance is there. And he will work with me, and I need to work with him. So if he has a difficulty with a particular supplier, I need to support that, and I can do that from a finance perspective by applying pressure on the supplier. Sorry, if you're not going to do this properly, then you're not going to get paid. Equally, he will work with me, and if I'm having problems with a supplier on the invoicing side, he will be feeding that message back along the line through his buyers to be saying to the supplier, we're not going to place orders with you because you're causing our finance team some problems. That's a great relationship to have, and that's the way you need to develop it. And the way of doing this is to make certain you've got good communication, you're talking with the buyers, you're talking with the people who are doing the ordering, you're talking with your colleagues in management team, so lots of talking going on. Also, what I tend to do is I will do training sessions, and I do training sessions for the buying team. I will do contract law, I'm also head of legal. I will provide contract law sessions so the buyers understand the need and importance of robust contracts and getting contractual terms in place. I've recently been doing a set of training sessions on compliance and talking about cost of capital employed. I mean, that's a pure finance topic, but it has implications throughout procurement when you start talking about things like how long stock is held in the warehouse before it's sold, the need for getting good payment terms. All of that is driven by the cost of capital employed. So if you explain to people what these terms are, what they mean, why they're important, not just cost of capital employed and expect them to understand it because they won't. If you explain to them the need for it and you work with them, then that's when you get to the same place that you're both trying to get to, but you do it without fighting each other. You do it by both pulling in the same direction. And you also need to get the suppliers on board with this. You've got to get the supplier to understand all you want is your invoice paying on time. Surely that's what you want. So whatever you need to do to help us pay you, that's what we want you to do. So again, it's about talking to the supplier, communicating the need for compliance. Send your goods, that's fine, that's okay, but you must have a purchase order. If you send goods without a purchase order, you won't get paid. If you don't quote the right information, you won't get paid. Not because we think it's fun in finance or because we just want to sit on your money. It's absolutely not that. But we have to make sure we have a duty to protect the shareholders. So the customer, who is the customer? If you're a supplier and your invoice is correct, You're the customer. You deserve to be paid to terms. And in finance, we must do everything we can to do that. If your invoice is wrong or not correct, or you shouldn't be invoicing us, then our customer is the shareholder, and we're there to protect the shareholder. So we are not going to part with money unless we absolutely know it should be right. So help us get that bit right. Do what you need to do it right first time, and the world becomes a happy place for everybody.
You just delivered your keynote presentation on purchase to pay in relation to touchless processing. Can you tell us a bit more about touchless processing?
Really a big part of touchless process is around exactly that I've just been talking about. If you can provide the right information to the supplier, and the supplier is absolutely on board with what you're trying to do, he gets it. You've given him a purchase order, you've told them repeatedly, we only want you to supply what's on the purchase order. If you don't agree with the purchase order, if you don't accept it, reject it. Get it amended. If when the purchase order comes through, it's got the wrong price on it, don't just supply at a different price, because we won't pay you, or we'll pay you a different amount. What you must do is you must reject it. Right? If you've also got the buying team on board with that, who understand the need to make certain they get the purchase orders correct, they issue the purchase order, they've got the right goods, they've got the right quantities, then the touchless processing can follow. Because we can put systems in to automate that. But systems and automation really only works when everything is correct. It's designed to reject anything that isn't. It's designed to create exceptions. So yes, you have to have methods of dealing with those exceptions, and those methods have to be good and robust. But at the same time, it's about if the supplier can get the right information on his invoice, can do what he needs to do correctly, invoice correctly at the right price, then we get the right result, which is the invoice comes in, it doesn't get touched at all, the system deals with it, and it gets paid to terms. And that's what the supplier wants.
Well, thank you very much for your time today, Ian.
You're very welcome, Fränzel.